graciousness and his ascendancy. Now we come to the matter which is the greatest, the unsearchable riches of the land. The corresponding reading of this episode is chapter 4 of the All-Inclusive Christ by Brother Winnesley. The key verse of this subject is Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 7, which says, "For Jehovah your God is bringing you to a good land, a land of water brooks, of springs, and of fountains, flowing forth in valleys and in mountains." While you're listening this episode, please consider the following questions. What's the spiritual significance of these waters? Where do all these waters come from? And how can we apply this into our Christian experience? If you read Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 7 carefully, you'll find that it mentions 3 kinds of waters: water brooks, springs, and fountains. What's the meaning of these waters? The Lord's words in John chapter 4, verse 14 answer this question. The Lord said, "The water that He gives will be in us a well of living water, a fountain springing up unto eternal life." So these waters are types of the various kinds of supply of Christ's life. The life of Christ as a supply to us is just like the different kinds of waters. When we are thirsty inwardly, we come to contact the Lord by calling on His name, by prayer, by reading the Bible, so on and so forth. We are refreshed by the Lord as the living water. Sometimes we experience the Lord as a spring of joy, sometimes as a spring of peace, and sometimes as a spring of comfort. Sometimes you experience Him as a fountain of love, a fountain of grace, a fountain of light. At other times, Christ is a stream of patience, a stream of humility, and a stream of forbearance to us. Chapter 8, verse 7 is that the waters flow forth in valleys and in mountains. What's this? The Christian life that God promised is not a smooth sailing life all the time. It's a life of ups and downs. Sometimes we might be down to a point in the valley, but other times we are high in the mountains. Brother Winnesley pointed out that all the valleys are the experience of the cross, the experience of the death of Christ, and all the mountains are the experience of the Lord's resurrection. A valley is the cross. A mountain is resurrection. We must be the one who always has some trouble, some valley, but also one who is always on the mountains, always in the experience of resurrection. Whenever there is a valley, there is a mountain. The living waters flow forth from all these experiences. When I was reading this chapter, I can't help but thinking about Brother Watchman Nee. In his own testimony, his life was full of sufferings, all kinds of oppositions from different groups of people around him. Eventually, he was in prison for 20 years and martyred for the Lord. But because he always experienced the Lord in all kinds of situations, his writings can be so supplied to many Christians. In his books, he flows so much living water through his seeing and experience of Christ to all the readers. We hope through the sharing you'll get help and experience Christ in your life. In this entire book, Brother Winnesley always encouraged us to try to apply Christ. If you're listening this episode, hope you'll be inspired to apply Christ as the living waters flowing forth in valleys and in mountains. Finally, I'd like to share with you a hymn called "I Have Come to the Fountain of Life." The music credit is given in the description box. Let's apply Christ as the living water. Thank you for listening and see you next time.